Hey guys, this is Joe Boyver from JB Web Tech. I'm making this video today to show you 3 simple ways you can give your computer a quick little tune-up. These are basic routine maintenance steps, so don't expect to see a tremendous amount of improvement in your computer's performance. If your computer is running really exceptionally slow, then you may want to scan it for viruses. Or if it's inherently slow, then you may want to upgrade the amount of RAM memory in your system to boost that performance. The 3 basic tune-up / maintenance steps I'm referring to are number 1, a disk cleanup, number 2, a disk check, and number 3, a disk defragment. All 3 of these tools are built-in Windows functions and they're found on the properties page of the hard drive. So to show you, I'm going to click the start button and I'm going to click on computer. Same thing as going to my computer or going to Windows Explorer. I'm going to right click on the C drive and select Properties. On the General tab, you see the Disk Cleanup button. On the Tools tab, for error checking, you have the Check Now button, and for defragmentation, you have the Defragment Now button. The Disk Cleanup tool will allow you to reclaim some disk space by removing files that should no longer be needed, like temporary files, temporary internet files, and emptying out the recycle bin. There are also some other files you can get rid of, like removing all but the most recent current system restore point and error reporting log files. If your computer is running low on disk space, then that can surely cause it to slow down and start giving you error messages, especially problems with virtual memory. If after you run the disk cleanup tool, you still don't have at least 8 to 10% of free space on your hard drive, then you may want to consider some other options to free up disk space, like uninstalling some programs you no longer need or use, or move some personal files to CD or DVD. Pictures, videos, and music files are the first things that come to mind because they gather up in your hard drive and they typically start taking up a lot of space. So to show you how the disk cleanup works, we're going to click the disk cleanup button. And the little disk cleanup window pops up and it calculates the files that it can remove. When this window shows up, the disk cleanup for C, it shows you some files that it can remove: the downloaded program files, temporary internet files, offline web pages. It can empty out the recycle bin for you. I typically leave pretty much most of these checked. Log files, temporary files, thumbnails, error reporting. If you click the cleanup system files, it'll tell you right here, 35.5 megs it can get rid of for you. If you clean up the system files, take note right here, we have 10.3 gigs used, 89.5 gigs free. So we click the button that says clean up system files, and now we have another tab up top here. It says more options. If we click this cleanup button here for programs and features, that will allow us to uninstall some programs that we don't need anymore to help us reclaim more disk space. This button here, under the System Restore and Shadow Copies, if we hit cleanup, it's going to ask us, do you want to delete all but the most recent restore point? So I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. Now if your computer is running fine, you probably don't need any other older restore points. If in the future your computer starts acting up again, you can restore back to the most current restore point that we have, which should be a good one. Once that's done, it doesn't really give you any kind of notification that it's finished. Just click the Disk Cleanup tab again, and we're going to click the OK button. We have these options all checked. I'm going to hit the OK button. It's going to get rid of 35 more megs. Are you sure you want to permanently delete these files? Yes, this is how we're going to clean up the C drive. Okay, and this dropped down. What was, I think it was 10.3 gigs before, now it dropped down to 10 gigs. So we reclaimed some disk space. I didn't have a lot of junk on here, so it didn't really clean up too much. But just for the demonstration purposes, you can see this is how a disk cleanup works. The next thing is the disk check. The disk check will check the file system on the hard drive for any problems and errors You can think of the hard drive like a book that has a table of contents in the front and an index in the back. What a disk check does is make sure that if a file is listed in the contents or index, that it actually exists in the location that it points to. And if anything points to space that is no longer occupied by a file, then that space is reclaimed. It verifies that the index entries are all valid, and if it says the file is on page 25, then that file better be there. This is sort of a layman's explanation of it. It actually does a lot more, and will make corrections to the file system as needed. This is important for the overall health and stability of the files on the drive. A basic disk check will complete in 3 stages, but you can also perform a disk check that examines the free space on the hard drive, which is a 5-stage disk check and can take quite a bit longer, especially if you have a large drive with a lot of files, because it's not only checking the used space on the drive, but also verifying the validity of the empty space. And if it locates a section on the hard drive that it feels data cannot be written to or read from reliably anymore, then it will mark that as a bad sector and not use it anymore. So to demonstrate this, on the Tools tab, we're going to click the Check Now button. Now, if you keep the automatically fix file system errors checked, then it won't be able to check it right now. It's going to require you to reboot the computer, and as it's booting up, then it's going to run the disk check. But if we say we don't want to fix anything, let's just see if there are any problems, we're going to uncheck it. Now, there's also an option to scan for and attempt recovery of bad sectors. If you check the scan for and attempt recovery of bad sectors, that's going to perform the 5-stage disk check I was talking about just a moment ago. Otherwise, it does the standard 3-stage disk check. So I'm not going to go ahead and do the scan for bad sectors. That's going to take a while. We already know this drive is clean. But I'm going to go ahead and click Start. And this is going to it actually gives you a progress bar. It tells you how far into the disk check it is. All right, and when the disk check is complete, it will tell you whether or not it found any problems. This time it says no problems were found in the device, it's ready to use. And you can click over here, the arrow, to see more details. And it's going to tell you, what exactly it checked. These are the 3 stages I was talking about. Verifying files is stage 1. Verifying the security descriptors, verifying indexes is stage 2. The security descriptors, stage 3. And at the bottom here it says Windows has checked the file system and found no problems. And then it gives you information about how much space is available on your hard drive. So that's a disk check. If it found any problems, what you're going to want to do is click it again and make sure that you have this checked. And then click Start. It's going to tell you Windows can't check the disk while it's in use. Do you want to check for hard disk errors the next time you restart your computer? And if you click the Schedule Disk Check button, then you're going to want to go ahead and restart your computer so it can run the actual disk check as it boots up again. I'm going to click Cancel. Now the next thing is the defragmentation. The disk defragmenter, that will rearrange the files on the disk so they're once again contiguous. When a program is using a file, the file will oftentimes become fragmented, meaning part of the file is located in one location on the hard drive and another part of the file is located on another location. This is due to the mechanics of how a drive reads and writes files, and it pretty much occurs at a very low level in the system. It has nothing to do with the way the program works, or it's the program's fault. In essence, it's for the performance of the hard drive at the moment. But after time, when a file becomes overly fragmented, then the hard drive has to work excessively hard to read that file. It starts reading the file at one section of the drive, and then the drive heads have to move around to another section to read more of it, and then move again to another section to read even more of that file, etc. And all this random hard drive movement slows down the whole read process compared to if the file was all together and it could start the drive heads in one section and just flow naturally to read the file without having to bounce around. Try reading a sentence in a book where the one word is on this page, another word is on the next page, and then you have to flip to the back to read the next word and then go back to the original page to finish reading the sentence. How much longer would that take you compared to just reading the whole sentence in normal flow without having to shuffle around the pages? That's the concept of disk defragmenting. And not only does it take all the parts of a file and put them back next to each other, but it can also take the most frequently used files and put them in the most optimal place for the drive to read them. To demonstrate the defragmentation, I'm just going to click the Defragment Now button. Now, with Windows 7 here, you can actually schedule a defragment to run. You can configure a schedule. I want it to run every week, every Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, of course, if your computer is not turned on, it's not going to run. And I don't believe it's going to run the next time you turn the computer on either. So you're going to probably want to schedule this for a time when your computer is running, but maybe you're stepped away from it, like a lunchtime or a break or something. But what you do is you select the drive you want to defragment, and just click the Defragment Disk button. Now for Windows 7 here, it goes through several passes. It'll analyze it, then it'll defragment it, then it'll consolidate it. Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows ME, Windows Server 2008, they all have different defragmentation window. It doesn't look exactly like this one does. This one doesn't really give you any details. The other ones have some kind of like a graphic image that shows you it's moving this around, moving that around. By the time it's all done, you have all the blue bars on the left, and there's no more red bars that represent fragmented files. But the concept is the same, and the location to start the program is in the same place on the Properties tab of the hard drive. Okay, this is up to pass 5 right now. Don't recall exactly how many passes there are, but we're going to find out in just a few moments. Now, when this started, it was at 0% fragmented anyways. Okay, so it went through 6 passes. It wasn't fragmented to begin with, so it was probably kind of quick. Depending on how many files you have, how fragmented it is, how much disk space is left to perform the defragmentation operations, it could all account for how long it's going to take. Sometimes it can go quick like this. Other times it could take a half an hour or more, an hour. So it all depends on how fragmented it is and how many files you have on there. So that's it. I'm going to hit close, and these are the 3 basic tune-up / maintenance steps to help keep your PC running smoothly. Once again, I'm Joe Boisvert from JB WebTech, and if you want any more tips, tricks, and helpful advice, visit us at jbwebtech.net.